Got Next is back. Meghan and Zora, that would be us, are here. Your one-stop shop for all things women's basketball. Meghan, you clearly are not at home, though. So you got to tell the people you're on the road. What game are you calling?
Where am I? I am in State College, PA, baby. We got Penn State, St. John's women's hoops coming up tonight on Big Ten Network. So, yeah, just getting ready to watch some of the top offense go against some of the top defense in the country. And we love a contrast in styles.
I love that. I am coming to you all from my home, and I'm still defrosting because I was on football duties, Iowa, Nebraska.
Yes.
This past weekend, 18 degrees in it for 5 hours. Yeah, we made it.
If you guys have time, go look at Zora's Instagram, and like you have to see how bundled up she was. She was in like a sleeping bag coat, essentially. And like hat down to her eyes almost. I don't blame her. I've had to do football at Iowa. The weather is never kind outside of the month of August. So
right. Yeah.
I saw you. It was a night game. Looked awesome. But I was like, goodness gracious, she's got to be freezing. And you killed it as usual.
One day we'll tell our Iowa story of how we had to traverse through the plains in a blizzard.
Oh,
and the highway was, normally, you know, we've both lived in the Midwest, right? We're used to snow. Normally the highway is accessible. I mean, this was the worst I've ever seen a highway.
I mean, we saw like 15 cars that were like off the side of the road that had just like slipped off and they couldn't get back on. It was insane. There's a word for that. I just can't think of the word.
Yeah, right. It was bad. Okay. We're going on tangents as we do. Let's get right into it. The topic that we want to start with today is SEC-ACC Challenge. It's the second year in a row that the matchups have happened. It, of course, happens both on the men's and women's side. We're going to focus on the women. There's two games that we want to highlight. The first one, Texas, Notre Dame. We know that Notre Dame is coming off 2 losses this weekend after that big win a weekend ago over USC. Texas still undefeated. Your thoughts on this one? You're excited about this one. It's in South Bend, by the way.
I'm so excited about this game. First and foremost, you know, Texas facing its first true, you know, hard-nosed ranked opponent in Notre Dame. So that's going to be interesting. Madison Booker, if you haven't caught her in action yet, she's must-see television. Mid-range assassin at 6'1". She's hard to contest. She can knock down the 3, and she's efficient. She finishes through contact. She's just so much fun to watch play. Notre Dame now coming off 2 losses, and I will say this, you know, they played in this MTE multi-team event, and those tournaments can be hard because you're playing mostly back-to-back games. Scouts are different. In losing to TCU for Notre Dame, I think really exposed the lack of front court depth that they have right now with Westbeld being out, Liza Carlin being out. They just have some injuries. And then Sedona Prince was kind of able to just
2020 game.
2020 vision, 2020 game, all the things. Sedona Prince played out of her mind. Hailey Van Lith, obviously, having a huge game as well, especially in that fourth quarter. Notre Dame's going to be fine, folks. It happens. These Thanksgiving tournaments, I feel like every team, coaches don't all the time love these tournaments. Dan Hurley just famously went off about how he will never play in a 3-game MTE ever again, which I don't blame him. Like, these tournaments are hard because you don't know what you're going to get a lot of the time. Short rest, you're in a different environment. They're great in terms of challenges, but also like you learn a lot about your team. So either way, this is going to be a great matchup. Texas, Notre Dame, style-wise, Notre Dame loves to play fast. Texas is an excellent defensive team. They also like to play fast, but they're going to look to press. It's going to be really interesting to see who handles the pace of play better and who can take that one in this game.
Okay, now the next one, South Carolina, Duke. Of course, South Carolina has that 1 loss to UCLA, but they've been pounding teams ever since. Duke only has 1 loss as well to Maryland, which was a ranked opponent as well. Both teams are defensive-minded groups.
Yeah. Look, South Carolina for the past, I don't even know how many years, has always been one of the top rebounding teams in the SEC and in the country. So, like, that's never been an issue for the Gamecocks. I love how they've responded the last 2 games. After falling to UCLA on the road, they've responded by winning by 40-plus each game coming out. They held Iowa State, who ranks in the top 15, to 9 points in the first half. In the first half, 9 points. That's unbelievable. I'm really impressed with the balance right now that South Carolina has come out with. They have 5 different players averaging nearly 10 points or more. They're rebounding. They're more efficient. They've just taken a little bit of time to get into a rhythm, and you're starting to see that play out on the floor for them. As for Duke, great defensive team. Kara Lawson's teams are always like defensive minded, to your point. Reagan Richardson has been playing out of her mind right now. Another really fun, like bigger guard. She's just a flat out scorer. Watch her in ball screen actions and how she reads the defense, not just like the primary defender, but the secondary. She's really smart on when to pull up, when to go all the way in. And one player we're not talking about enough, I love Toby Fournier. She's the freshman for Duke, who is really efficient. Every single time she goes in, she'll play for like 10, 15 minutes and have like 10 points. And you're like, how did that happen? But that's going to be a really fun matchup. Who's going to control the glass? I think is what this one's going to come down to.
What I love about this matchup too is you've got a lot of firepower off the bench for both of these teams. I mean, you think of South Carolina, Mylasia Fulwiley coming off the bench, and I love Dawn Staley. She was asked about that this week, specifically coming off the UCLA loss, and she's like, "Hey, our home is good. Mylasia and I are good, right?" And I love that she's got that kind of depth where you've got so much talent off the bench. And then for Duke, actual tidbit. So my parents live in the Triangle area. They have season tickets to Duke women's basketball.
I didn't know that.
Scouting report from my dad is that he loves the energy coming off the bench for the Blue Devils. So
Mr. Stevenson, we need to have him on as a guest analyst. What are we thinking?
Yes. I mean, they were at the gate. Duke played Columbia yesterday. They were at the gate. I mean, my mom's got a good luck blue shirt that she wears to every game. They're in it. So if you ever need like a breakdown for the Blue Devils, they've got it.
Oh, that is valuable information to have. I love everything about this. So the game's at South Carolina, never mind. But I was gonna say, we'll get a live report for them sometime.
We no, I'm for it. They would definitely be for it. They would have to put them on a time cap though, because they can go in depth and deep. And of course, we know Kara Lawson has DMV ties. That's really what it is.
And for those who don't know, we also have DMV ties. So
we do too. So yeah,
DMV
all in the family.
Yes.
6 degrees of separation. You could DMV when it comes to women's basketball. You could trace some of the greats back to that area. DC, Maryland, Virginia. For those who are not hip.
Not the Department of Motor Vehicles.
Yeah, not the place that we loathe. Okay, your power rankings, Meghan. You may still have some of the teams in there. They're just shuffled a little bit.
This time of year, it's still so difficult. There are some changes. I put UCLA at number 1. They deserve it. They just do. They're undefeated. They beat South Carolina, number 1 team in the country. They just played in Hawaii, won 2 games by 30, 40 plus there. Like, they're dominating right now, which is what you do when you are considered the number 1 team in the country. Right. So I'm all for that. UConn, they only dropped because they just haven't, they're about to play some really good teams come December. But what UCLA has done has shown me they're more at this point in time the number 1 team in the country versus UConn. But UConn's still a great team. Like, you could really make an argument for either. South Carolina moving up to 3rd, especially how they responded after losing for the first time in years, to win by 40 plus is huge. And Texas, watching Texas play, like, I love watching them defensively. Like, Rory Harmon is similar in the Hannah Hidalgo effect, where like you don't want her anywhere near you. She's just a really smart defender and then a really smart playmaker as well. I loved watching her game. And then I dropped Notre Dame from 2 to 5. They weren't bad losses. Like, you lose to TCU, is ranked. Utah's likely an NCAA tournament team. And they still have injuries. So, time will tell. Notre Dame, though, like they've got to beat Texas to, stay in this top 5 range, obviously. But that's going to be, to me, the most interesting game of the week is that Texas Notre Dame game coming up, because those are 2 potential Final Four teams. I love when you play in these challenges because it feels like March in December, minus the weather. But it's just a lot of fun. It's good for the game. It's good to get these matchups on television. It's a good measuring stick for coaches to see where their teams are at prior to conference play.
Yeah, I mean, Notre Dame has had a number of measuring sticks, right? Of course, they had to play USC.
But they're battle tested.
You could add TCU into that, and now Texas, and they'll have to play UConn later. I mean, they're really getting the gauntlet before conference play starts. On her turf moments, for those who are not familiar, okay, I want to show my backpack. because I need to
show it off.
That I do have my On Her Turf swag in the background. This is NBC Sports' women's empowerment platform, right? Yeah. And so every week we take a moment and we give out some flowers, whether it's a historical moment or someone that's just doing amazing things. We have two different things. So let's start in the WNBA with Lindsay Whalen returning to the Minnesota Lynx to be on the bench as an assistant coach. I mean, it's like all things are right in the world. If there's one place she's going to be after going to college and coaching at her alma mater, it's like, okay, go back to the Lynx.
Why not? It makes complete sense. I love this. First off, Lindsay Whalen, for those who don't know, Minnesota legend for the Golden Gophers. And then, of course, Minnesota legend for the Lynx, was coaching at Minnesota. And I love how she was at every single Lynx Liberty game. And they showed her the whole entire time. She was so into it. Great basketball mind. But more importantly, it's a great hire for Cheryl Reeve, because if anyone understands Cheryl Reeve, it's Lindsay Whalen. They have a great relationship and have won a lot together. So Lindsay Whalen understands what it's like to win WNBA titles. I believe she's won 4 of them.
I mean, look at you see that picture that we just showed? I mean, you see Lindsay and Maya and Rebecca and then Sylvia at one point. I mean, just like whatever you think of like the Aces and Liberty right now when it comes to super teams, like the Lynx paved the way for that.
Like, people don't understand how good Lindsay Whalen was, like what she did for the game at the time. Because now, like, everybody, the WNBA now is very cool, which, like, we've always thought it was cool. But you have to understand, like, your history, what Lindsay Whalen was able to do while she was at the Minnesota Lynx was incredible. And to your point, I love what you just said with the Liberty you're doing now, what the Aces are doing now. The Minnesota was the OGs when it came to that. Yeah.
And they believed in pouring resources into the W franchise, an amazing atmosphere there at the Target Center. A lot of props.
They show up. It's loud. Like, I love the Target Center. I think it's a great host venue. I also appreciate how Minneapolis just is set up as a city with, like, the tunnels and the skywalk.
Walkability. Yeah. We like Minneapolis.
We like Minneapolis. We're fans.
Okay, so we go from the W now to high school, and we go from the Midwest all the way out to the coast. Inglewood, I loved this. A girls basketball team in Inglewood getting pumped up. I mean, you would talk about hype video. I love what the girls are doing, but it's the coach towards the end that really gets me. He goes off.
Also, I can't believe they're doing this stuff in high school now. This production's incredible. I mean, the lights behind it, everyone's hype. And then coach is going to get in here in a minute, and it truly just makes the whole entire video. But you can just see the camaraderie. And, like, Zora, this, like, gives me total FOMO, and I miss, like, my old teammates because, like, you just have look at coach. I mean, that's just fun. It's nothing better than being on a team. It's the greatest thing you can ever experience.
People will ask us all the time, what do you miss about playing? And, like, I can't remember stats or, like, all the wins and losses, but it's those moments in the locker room or on the bus or – I mean, you spend so much time with your teammates. You get to know them in such a special way. It's really one of those unique experiences in life that I wouldn't trade for anything.
I still, like, remember the inside jokes that I have with, like, all my teammates. And, like, sometimes I'll, like, say them in regular conversations and people are like, what? And I'm like, never mind. You wouldn't understand.
You wouldn't understand.
It's so special. It's the greatest bond you can ever have.
It is. And maybe there's teammates that you don't talk to regularly, but you see them and it's just like you go right back to where you were, which is some of the best relationships. Okay. Who's got next? We've got a few. Like, first off, we're pumping through. We've got 2 people that we want to highlight. Hailey Van Lith, though, we were talking about TCU's big win over Notre Dame. I mean, what she's been able to do, and I don't want to call it a resurgence, but just like she's back to like her Louisville numbers, which I love to see. It seems like that TCU system is set up for her.
She looks just more confident and comfortable within the system. And when you have, like, the support of everybody around you, not saying she didn't at LSU, but, like, when you have that type of support, you feel the confidence. And, I love the video of her that has come out because she appreciates it more than anybody when she puts up the big numbers and it gets recognized.
Yeah, she had a double-double. Let's go take a look on how much it meant to her.
Did I get a double-double? Oh, I'm going to cry.
You've never done that in your life.
Good job, kiddo. The playmaker. She's being unleashed. Good job. You're just getting started, kiddo.
Damn.
You've had 19 assists. You've had 19 assists in your last 2 games. Good job. Proud of you.
Thank you, guys.
Yep.
For these, Hailey.
Yeah. Bill for it.
Yeah.
Good job, Hales.
I mean, this is a young woman that has been on the biggest stages of women's basketball, both on the court and off the court. You talk about some of the NIL deals that she has, and just to see what that moment meant to her, I felt it. And I appreciate the emotion and someone who cares deeply about the game and about their performance.
And just like almost relieved, almost, you know what I mean? Like, I don't think people realize in this day and age, and we're kind of dealing with Hailey Van Lith, Paige Beckers, Caitlin Clark was in that group as well when they were in college. Like, that was the first generation of players who were really on social media and really exposed in terms of like the game and people coming in and watching and dealing with Angel Reese, dealing with a ton of criticism, you know, like it is very difficult every single day. And like, I think they've all handled it beautifully, but you can only tune so much out, right? Like, you're a young person, you're going to see what people say online, and it's really difficult to have to go through day by day and know that there is criticism out there. And these young women are 21, 22 years old, and they're dealing with things that no adults have really ever had to deal with. This is uncharted territory with the explosion of popularity in women's basketball and the social media presence that now exists in our world. So for her to play so well, I'm really happy for her that, you know, it's come around for her.
Well said, Meghan. I don't think there's anything else to add, but these young women are doing something that no one else has done. And they're doing it with grace, and we're all just so proud of them. So kudos to HVL and all of the other ladies that are in the spotlight. Speaking of spotlight, it is time to give a bouquet of flowers to our triple-double watch of the week out of Florida State. Tanaya Latson over Gonzaga gets a triple-double. I mean, this is a young lady that is averaging 26 points per game. Her career average is over 20 points per game, but this stat line deserves a moment.
Look, it is so difficult to get triple doubles. I feel like that's why we make such a big deal about it in the WNBA and college hoops. You have to be so efficient and effective in multiple areas, obviously not just scoring. So Florida State's starting to get things rolling. This is a good time to have a game like this before conference play kind of starts to get going. You'll have the SEC-ACC Challenge, of course, for Florida State. And then ACC conference play, like, you get a game in December and you got to be ready to rock and roll. So big confidence booster, and better watch out on the scouting report. You got to now mark down. You got a triple double watch every single time she steps on the floor.
I loved our preview of the SEC-ACC Challenge. You just got me really hyped for it.
It's gonna be so fun. It's this week, Wednesday, Thursday.
I know. And I love the middle of the week matchup to get us, like, you know, pumped up. We're in that holiday season now. We're officially in the holiday season, and so we need things to keep us going.
I also have 2 more games I want to plug, just because why not when we talk about SEC-ACC Challenge? No, I'm not doing any of them. I'm going to be watching them from the comforts of my couch and probably texting you about them. OU Louisville is going to be a fascinating game coming up. And then you have Kentucky and UNC, which, of course, you have Georgia Amore, Kenny Brooks, very familiar with Virginia Tech and Courtney Bankhart and UNC, but now they're at Kentucky. So that's going to actually be more like, to me, a late season matchup, just because of the familiarity between the coaches and players. Right. So I'm excited.
It may feel like a conference game.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Gosh. This is why we pay Natalie the big bucks, baby.
Shout out to Natalie for getting this up here.
Throwing up the schedule. I'm excited about this. Yeah, that Louisville game's going to be fun. Yeah, I'm into it. I think looking at all these things closely.
And there's going to be some upsets. I mean, every week that we have done this show for this season, there's been upsets. And I just think it speaks to the parity of women's basketball and the talent up and down the conferences all across the country. And it's what you want, right? There was a time in this game where you could close your eyes and you just say, okay, whoever's ranked higher is going to win. That is not the case anymore. And it makes for a much more exciting brand of basketball.
And it's more than Tennessee. It's more than UConn.
Thank you.
It's more than Duke. LSU all the things. You got true. You never know what's
Flau'jae
going to
is
happen.
maybe she's in. I mean, she's not really got next. She's got now, but like maybe. I mean, we need to. Flau'jae has been crushing it, and this is the first year that she's been like, the premier scorer, right? And she's showing out. Big four.
Yeah. No, 100%. It's a lot to be excited about. And we're just happy that you guys are all tuning in, and we'll keep you all abreast of all the things you need to know, women's hoops.
Thanks as always for tuning in, whether you're watching on YouTube or listening wherever you get your podcast. We'll be back next week for more Got Next with Meghan and Zora. Have a good one.